Hello and welcome to the coding module channel. In the last video, we created a project that transfers data from one worksheet to another. In this video, we will do the same thing, but instead of using worksheet as our data entry form, we will use a user form. So I'm planning to make a different videos that focuses on the user form. This video is the first one and we will start with the basic of the user form. So like before, let me show you first what we will build so you will get the idea. So this is our tool and we have here two worksheets. The first one is the start sheet where there is a button that if you click will launch our user form, and then the record worksheet will contain all the entry that we will submit using the user form. So let's go back to the start sheet and click this button. So here we can submit some entry, like for example first name is Jando, and then for the age we can select this and gender, and when we click submit, that record will be added to our record sheet. Let me add another one, and this one is a female. Hit submit, close, click the close button to close the user form, and if we check the record, that is added to the next available row of our worksheet. So now that you have the idea, let's start building this tool. So we will start with this template. You can download this same template. I'll just put the link in the description of this video. So if you want to code while watching this video, you can do that. So when you download the template, we it already have the two formatted worksheet, the start and the record worksheet. So here, let's start by opening the VBA editor. You can press Alt F11 from your keyboard, or you can also click Visual Basic from the Developer tab. Here we will start by inserting a new form. So you can right click anywhere from the Excel object, then insert user form. You can also do that by clicking this insert button here. And then here, so when dealing with user form, it is an excellent practice that or to properly name our user form and the controls that we will use later. So for this user form, I will name it FRM form, and we will also change the caption to just simply form. And we can also change the back color. I will just be using white, but you can select the color that you want. So here the first control that we will add is our labels for the five details that we need. So the label is the A icon in the toolbox. So there are two options to add a label to our user form. The first one is by clicking the label icon and then draw a label in the user form. The second is by dragging the label icon to the user form. So whichever you prefer, we'll just do the same thing. So now that we have the label control added to the user form, we can change the caption to first name. And let's also change the label name to LBL first name. So giving controls a proper name is beneficial because you can easily remember and identify them when needed in the code. So let's also change the font style and size of this label. So just look for the font property and there's a button beside that field. Just click that. For the font, I will be using Arial, and for the font style regular, and 14 for the font size. And we can extend this. All right. So after that, we can copy this for the additional label so we don't need to work with the formatting again. So you can just right click and copy that. You can also click Control C and Control V from your keyboard. So for this one, I will first update the label to LBL last name, and for the caption, it should be last name. And I'll just add some space between those two control. Then let's copy this again for the email label. So this should be LBL email. And for the caption, let's change it to email. Next is the label for the age. So for the name, let's name it LBL age. For the caption, let's change it to age. And the last one is the label for the gender. So let's copy this again, paste, and let's name it gender, LBL gender, and of course the caption should be of type gender. Alright, so now that we have all the labels, we can start adding the additional controls. So we will use the text box control for the first, last name, and the email. So let's add a text box for the first name first. So this is our text box control in the toolbox. So here we can draw a text box here. So first, let's change the text box name. I will name this TXD first name. If you notice, we are using a prefix to the name of our controls. So like for label, we use LVL, and now for the text box, we are using the TXT. So using the control type as prefix makes identifying the control more accessible. So let's also change the font size and the font style of the text box to match the label. So again, look for the font property and click the button beside the field. We will use the same formatting, Arial, regular style, and 14 for the size. We can also change the height of the text box based on the label height. So if we check the label and look for the height property, this is 18. So for the text box, the height is currently 24. Maybe we can set it to 20, and then we will align this a bit. So if you want to check if the alignment is good, we can test the user form. This one is not good, so we'll do some adjustment. Let's test this one. All right. So if you cannot control the position, you can use the position here in the property of the text box. So there is a top. Look for the top. Then we can like assign a value to that. I will use 32. So now if we check, this one is, I think, still not good. Maybe we can adjust the this. There are too much space between the label and our text box. Again, let's change the top. Top is the distance in the top of the user form. So now it's 32. Let's check. Let's try to add something. All right. I think we can also uh, add height value. Let's use 22. Again, our label is 18. Let's check this. 22 is still not good. We will be using 24. And let's test. I think this one is better. And we can also make it a bit longer. All right, so we've changed the name already as well as the font style. And Yeah, I think that's all we can change for the text box property. Next is let's just copy this text box for the last name. So copy and then paste. And I think the alignment is good in there. So here, let's change the text box name for the last name. I will name it the txt last name. And again, copy it for the email. So copy and paste. So for the email, let's name it txt email. So we can also change some of the default properties of the text box, like the maximum length if you want to limit the number of characters that the user can type into the text box. There is also a for color for the text color, or if you want to set it to multi-line and so on. So now for the age, let's use a combo box so we can try more control in this video. So the combo box is this in our toolbox. So I will drag that, and then we'll change the name of this combo box to CBOH. Again, we are using the combo box prefix. And then for the height of this combo box, we can use the same height in our text box. So 24, and we can make it a bit shorter because it will only contain age value. All right. Hmm. We can also change the drop-down style of this combo box. So look for the style property and select the drop-down list. So later I will explain why it's better to use that drop-down style. And the font style, we will also change the font style to match the other controls. So look for the font property, and yeah, let's use Arial again, regular, and 14 for the font size. So for the gender, we can, yeah, for the gender, we can use option button control so that we can utilize some of the controls here in our toolbox. So the option button is this. Sometimes they call it radio button, but here in VBA they call it option button. So let's add one for our gender. So let's change the name first of this option button. This will be my male option. So I will name it OPT male. And then let's also change the caption to male. And the font style to match the other controls. Let's select Arial, regular, 14, and that should be good. Now for the height, we will use 22, similar with the other. And I think that is a bit up. Maybe we can adjust. So for the top, I will just. So this value here depend on your user form size. So that might be different on your side. So this fines with me. So now I will just copy this option for the female option. So paste and then align that to my option, and then change the height as well to the same, or I mean the top, change that similar to the first option. So for this option button, I will change the name to OPT female, and of course the caption should be email. Okay, so to send these details to the worksheet, we need buttons. So we will be adding command button control. So this is the command button. So just draw a command button. We will have two, one for the submit and another one for the close. So here, let's change the name first. This will be CMD submit. I use the prefix CMD for command. And for the caption, we will change it to submit. Let's also change the font style, of course, to the same font style we are using. Arial regular 14. You can select a different font style if you want. And then I will also change the back color of this button. So look for the back color property and I will use this color. And now I can just copy this for the close button. So here, let's change the name first to CMD close and the caption to close. And we'll also give it a different back color. I will be using that color. And now we can resize our user form. It's a bit wide, so now I think this one is better. All right, so now that all controls are ready, we can start working on the submit button. So just double click on the control to add a code to this button, and it will automatically have a private subroutine and a default event. So the default event for this button is click. So meaning that all the code we add in this block will get executed if we click the submit button during the runtime. So the first thing we will do here is to create variables for each detail. So to declare variables in VBA, we use the keyword dim followed by the variable name. So I'll start with the first name, a string, and then last name, a string, email, a string. Now for the age, it will be an integer, and for the gender, it should be of type string as well. So use the string variable type if it will hold a text value. That's why I use string for first name, last name, and email. And for the age, we use integer because it will have a number value. So next is let's assign the control value to this variable. So I'll just add a comment. Now, next step is to assign the controls value to the variables. Let's start with the first name. So first name is equals to the txt first name, that value. For the last name, that will be equals to txt last name, that value. And for the email, of course, txt email, that value. Now for the age, that is the CBO age, that value. And for the gender, gender is a bit different because we use option button. So to check if the option is selected, we can check if its value is equals to true. So here we can say if opt male, that value is equals to true. If that is true, meaning it is selected, then let's add an else if first. Else if opt female, that value is equals to true, then and so if opt male, that value is selected, we can say gender is equals to male. Now if it's the opt female that is selected, we can assign female to the gender variable. All right, so now we have all the controls value assigned to our variable. The next step is to transfer the controls value to our record worksheet. So let's create a variable that will represent the record worksheet. So I will name the variable RSH. I will add a comment first. So RSH stands for record sheet. So the variable type should be worksheet. And next is we will assign the record worksheet to the RSH variable. So using the set keyword, so set RSH is equals to this workbook that sheets record. So we use set for assigning value for or to object variables like worksheet because it is an object. Next, we need to know the next available row in the record worksheet because so that we know where we will uh, paste the data or the details we have in the user form. So get the next available row. So I will declare another variable to hold the next available row, and I will name it next row. It should be an integer type. And for this, we will use the first name column to identify the last row with value and then just add one to get the next available row. So to do that, we'll say next row is equals to RSH. Again, RSH is our record worksheet. That range column A, that is our reference, and rows that count, that end, that XLAP, that row. So this line will return the last row with value in column A. So to get the next available row, we will just add 1. So after we have the next available row, we can start transferring the data to the worksheet. So let's start with the first name or with column A. So that is RSH, that range A, and next row, that value is equals to our first name. And for the column B, that will be our last name. For column C, that is the email. And for column D, that is our the age. And lastly, for column E, that will be the gender. So now we can test the code to see if it works. So click the run button and let's try to enter some details. So for example, gender. Oops. So we don't have options yet for the age. So we cannot proceed with the testing. Let's add that first. So you can right click on the form and select view code. In here, we will create a new subroutine for adding items to the age combo box. So I will create that next to our uh, submit subroutine. I will just put some space here. All right. So let's name it add age items. And here we can just access the combo box using the with and CBO age and with. Then we can add item. So let's start with the age of 18 up to age 90. But using add item is too manual. So let's use a for loop to do this adding of the item for us. Oh, instead of doing that way, you can say for A is equals to 18 to 90. Next A, and then that add item A. It's all right. So next we need to call this subroutine when the user form loads so that we can select an item on the age combo box. So to do that, look for the user form control here. So that is the last one in my end. And it will show you the subroutine for that control. So here, just put your selector in this subroutine and then look for the activate event, and that will create a new private subroutine. We can delete the user form click because we don't need that. What we need is the user form activate event. And here we can just call the add age item. So add age items. So now we can test the code again. So click run and let's enter some details. And now we should have age option or items. You can type from this combo box, like for example 23, and select male. If we click submit, we can see that the the details are sent to the record worksheet. If we click submit again, it's keep on sending that details to the record worksheet. So our code is now working. The only thing is that it should clear the form after submitting a record. So let's go back to the code to do that. Again, you can right click uh, on the form and select view code. And here we will create a new subroutine for clearing the form. So I will name it clear form. So to clear the form, we need to access each control and set their value to an empty value or to clear. So let's start with the first name. So that value is equals to null. And then for the email, we can also set that to null. For the age, we can use that clear. And for the gender option button, we can set both to false. So OPT male, that value is equals to false, and OPT female, that value is equals to false. And since we cleared the combo box for age, we need to, what will happen is that all the items in that combo box will be removed. So we need to call our add age item subroutine again to refresh the combo box and add again the items for the age. And we need to call this clear form at the end of our submit button. So go back to the submit subroutine and then here you can add some comment and call the clear form. Let's also add the code for the close button. So let's go back to the user form and then double click on the close button. And then here we can just simply type end. So what end does is to terminate the runtime mode of the our program, which will also close the user form. And next, we also need to add a code that will open the user form. So this time, let's add that to the this workbook object. So double click on this workbook, and here let's create a new subroutine. Let's name it show form, and we just need to call the FRM form in here. So to do that, we'll just type FRM form dot show. And of course, to execute this macro, we need to assign it to our shape button in the start worksheet. So go to the start worksheet, right click on the show user form shape button, select assign macro, and select that show form macro. Hit OK. And now we can test the code again. So click that to launch the user form. Now we can add additional value. I cannot think of any name. For the age, it should be a male. Then we can add one. Uh, Female. Submit. If we click close, that will unload the user form. And then if we check our record, we have the additional entry in our record sheet. So that is all for this video. In the following videos, we will improve this tool by adding some features like uh, we will add additional controls. We will add validation to ensure that all fields are complete before transferring the data to the worksheet because we don't have any validation here. If you will imagine, you can click submit even if some of the controls are empty. And we can also validate if the email exists so that we can avoid duplicate entry and then automatically format the first and last name values to use proper case. And also we will explore the other controls in the toolbox that we haven't used yet. So I'll see you at the next one. Thank you for watching this video.